Hey guys, Brian Prahl with the Palmetto Mortgage Group here with another episode of our weekly or our top producer series. Today I've got Gary Pickren, one of the founders and lead attorneys over at Blair Cato. I'm sure you guys have heard or worked with them at some point in the past, but I just have a lot of respect for Gary and them over there at Blair Cato. They do a really excellent job. And we partnered with Gary for a long time, and I wanted him to kind of give a little bit of background because one of the things I love about their firm is how much effort they put into providing a value to you as real estate agents and us as lenders in our community. So Gary, if you don't mind, man, tell us a little bit about what you guys have been doing.
First of all, thanks, Brian, for having me today. I've watched several of your videos, and I tell you what, it's amazing what you guys are putting together. I think one of the best values that we can provide to each other in our industry is providing information to each other, and I think you guys have done a great job with this series, so thank you so much for having me. I have been doing real estate closings and been in real estate for about 25 years now. I have done 25, 30,000 closings in that time. Our firm does, anywhere between 3,000 or 4,000 closings any given year. Greenville, Lexington, Columbia. Other than doing closings, as you know, the things I like to do, I like to represent real estate agents as well as real estate agencies, whether it's a grievance at the Realtors Board or at the Real Estate Commission. I've been over to the commission 50, 60 times defending agents over there, so I enjoy that. I have spent a lifetime, I feel like, on the contract committee over at Central Carolina Realtors Association, helping draft that contract and amend it and keeping it together. And then I'm also very proud of the work we did on the seller disclosure task force when we rewrote the seller disclosure form a couple years ago. And because of all that and everything I've done, I've kind of got into teaching, been teaching real estate agents, continual education, MCE, CE, core class, realtor ethics classes, all that stuff for the last few years. And recently just started doing webinars, somewhat out of the practice of law, more into marketing, business development, things like that. So that's some of the things that you and I were talking about earlier.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I love because, everybody needs CE. So if you're teaching those classes, obviously that's a value add. But what I think we benefit more from as salespeople is, the marketing and how to generate business and how to facilitate growth in our own businesses. So yeah, we love the fact that you guys do that. That's one of the main reasons we like working with you guys. And you and I were talking earlier, and one of the reasons I wanted to get you on today is that you're starting a webinar. By the time this video is posted and aired, it'll have already been done. But if you don't mind, kind of tell us a little bit about what's going on.
So we did the webinar last Wednesday, and then we're going to do it this Wednesday. And even after you post this video, I'm sure we'll probably do it at least one or two more times. We had over 100-some people signed up the very first time, and I thought it was very well received. So what it is loosely based on some information on this book here, Every Job to Sell Job. One of my good friend and our business coach, Cindy McGovern, wrote it. It's a New York Times bestseller. And what the premise kind of goes on is something that my financial advisor and I were talking about the other day. He called me and congratulated me. And I said, why are you calling and congratulating me? The market's crap. And he said, yeah, but you and I switched over from mutual funds to stocks at the time the stock market hit the absolute bottom. I said, well, I don't even remember that. You called me. I didn't want to even deal with it. So I said, whatever, do whatever you want, which is a great way to run your retirement, isn't it not? Sure. Just do whatever you want. And so apparently he made the switch when the market crashed at the bottom. And so he said, Gary, don't forget, every crisis, financial crisis, sorry about that, has winners and losers. And so far you've won. I said, well, I didn't win. I just didn't lose as much as everybody else. But it got me thinking that, hey, that's a seminar right there, winners and losers in every economic crisis. And I think it really, Brian, I think it applies not just for our economic crisis we have been in and maybe coming out of, maybe experiencing a little bit longer. But the reality of is what she teaches in that book and what I teach in my webinar are some things that you can do in any market, whether it's good or bad. And so what we talk about in that webinar more than anything is that, and I kind of use it like Clemson football. You're a big Clemson fan, I understand. Is that right?
Let's not go there.
All right. I'm not a Clemson fan either. I'm actually, I'm not even a Gamecock. I'm a Wofford Terrier, and I'm wearing a Navy shirt today. Apparently I forgot I was wearing that. But when you look at a coach like Dabo Swinney, for instance, and sports analogies get overdone, but I think in this situation, it's a really good sports analogy that Dabo Swinney did not win a national championship without doing two things: setting goals and planning. So as real estate agents, I think one of the things that agents struggle as, and lawyers do as well as mortgage lenders do, is that we just kind of do things organically. We just let it just kind of happen, and my business just kind of grows. And if it grows, great. And if it doesn't, then I don't know why it's not growing. And so why is it? Well, what we find is that most times agents, lenders, attorneys, we give people good information like, hey, have you thought about doing this in your market? Have you thought about doing this? But the problem happens in the translation from that to execution. And if you're a baseball fan, you may remember Ray Tanner, who coached for the Braves, always used to say, it was a good idea, poor execution. That was before Bobby Cox. They used to suck back in the day. You're probably not old enough to remember that. But back in the days, back in the 70s, the Braves were terrible. And the coach would always say, well, we had a good idea. We just had poor execution. Well, yeah, that's what happens with what we do in real estate. So what we've talked about in this class is Dabo, when he sets goals. And he doesn't start with, I'm going to win a national championship. He knows that's the end goal. We have to set goals in front of us. He has to win 12 games first. He's got to win an ACC championship. Then he's got to win a playoff game. Then he wins the national championship. And then when you think about it as real estate agents, you can't sit down on a piece of paper and say, I'm going to sell 200 houses. Okay, well, how many houses are you going to sell this week, next month, the month after? You've got to build to that number. You also have to look, is my goals realistic? Is it realistic for Dabo to set national championship as his goal? Sure, he's done it before. And as we know, Clemson plays nobody. So it's not a hard goal. That's a shot at my Clemson fans. It's not hard to believe that. But is it reasonable to say Troy State or Northeastern Louisiana or Southwestern Texas will win a national championship and that's a goal? No, it's not. So agents have to be honest with themselves and say, I sold 5 houses last year. Setting a goal of selling 400 this year is probably not going to be reasonable. So setting reasonable goals. After you set your goals, then you have to sit down and set reasonable plans. And as I use the sports analogy again, Dabo doesn't plan to play LSU or Alabama in the national championship. He starts with his plan of recruiting. Who's going to be my depth chart? How am I going to do summer practice? How am I going to do fall practice? Then he's going to plan for all 12 games. Then he plans for the ACC and then the national championship series. But along the way, he's not losing sight of that national championship game. He's already paying attention in today, what's happening, maybe going to be happening in January, which is what a real estate agent should be doing. Planning for May, planning for June, planning for July, planning for August, but then also keeping an eye at the end of the year of how am I getting to that ultimate goal. And one thing that I think that a lot of agents kind of miss is the pivot. And I did a legal tip on that the other day, because I have a blog much like you have on legal tips, is that we all have to pivot. And when you're looking at your plan for May and June, what happens if the coronavirus comes back and we have to go back into quarantine? What happens if it completely goes away like SARS did and it never goes away? Where are my different paths going to take me? And I think a lot of agents are missing that boat, Brian. I think they look at, here's what I need to do to market, but then they don't know how to put it together. And as you know, because you and I have talked about this with Tripp many times, is that guys like you and me, we literally sit down and put pen to paper. We get, in my office, we put big old sheets on the wall and start writing down how many closings we're going to do this month, how many closings I'm going to do next month, how many dollars does that equate to? And actually, I think an agent should start with how much do I want to make and then equate that into closings. Yeah. Because that's the most important thing, right? And so I think if you would sit down and do that, it's an awful task. It's one of those things I dread doing every year. But at the end of the day, when I'm done with it, I look up and go, okay, I have the roadmap to my success. And then you measure your success on that roadmap. Every month, we're looking, how many closings we do this month? How much money did those closings equate to? And we can track that all the way down. And so I think that's something we all need to be working harder on.
It's funny because you mentioned that a lot of agents miss the boat on that. And that's not just agents. I mean, any salespeople.
Everybody.
Really, and you get into a situation where you can't see the forest for the trees. I mean, it's hard to look past your nose because you're trying to figure out how to handle what you've got and then what the next step is. But if you take a step back and you look at the broader picture of your business, it becomes a little bit easier to navigate through what your goals should end up being.
Absolutely.
So, to your point, if you sold 5 houses last year, 400 is unrealistic, but 25 isn't.
That's correct.
Right?
That's correct.
And so if 25 ends up being the number that you set as a goal, what if you hit 20 in May? Well, readjust the goal. Right?
I mean, revise the goal and move forward. Yeah, exactly. And the funny thing is Brian, Blair Cato's been in business 5 years. Rex, Cynthia, and I have been in business for 25 years. We've been at other firms, and we were together at another firm prior to this. But, we worked for a corporation type law firm, and we were so soured by doing APAs and JBS and this report and that report. And so we're like, we're not doing reports. And so we grew our business from 0 in 3 years to where it was one of the biggest firms in Columbia in terms of real estate, and if I don't mind saying, bragging on ourselves, one of the most respected. And then we met with Cindy, who's been friends with Cynthia, and Cindy's like, what y'all have done is actually astounding because you haven't really planned it, but what can you do now? So then we started planning with her, and from that we exploded to Greenville, we exploded into Lexington. I mean, our Lexington office, we were hoping to do a handful of closings, and it's now killing it. I mean, it's because we sat down with a business coach and we literally planned it out. It made all the difference in the world. And the growth is there. And I think any agent, just like you said, sits down and is reasonable with themselves and doesn't just go out there and throw, I'm going to do 400 closings out there, but reasonably look at it and then monitor it. I mean, that should be something that they look at every week, every month. How am I on my goals? Where am I getting to? And, you know, you need somebody to answer to in a way. I feel like I answer, even though I don't. Rex and Cynthia are equal partners. But I feel like I answer to them because that's the respect I have for them. But a lot of agents are all by themselves. So who are they answering to? Well, when you make your goals, you're now answering to yourself. And let's face it, ourselves are the biggest critics of ourselves. I mean, nobody's a bigger critic of yourself than you are. So now you're answering to yourself because you put it down and you're having to follow and go for those goals.
You know, it's funny you say that because we're doing this on a Zoom, but I will then upload that into BombBomb and I'll set it out through our CRM and I can track the results of the track. But to your point, being your own self-critic, like I'll rewatch our interview when we're done, and then I'll go back in and see who unsubscribed from my email. Right?
Yeah.
And then I'm wondering, all right, well, what could I have done better to make them not want to unsubscribe? So there is a little bit of self-reflection that I think is important, but also it can be detrimental if you take it too serious, right?
Right. Yeah.
I would be interested about that book and what your seminar is. Does it get granular on activities that need to be had by real estate agents or people?
No, I don't really get into, you need to call 4 agents 16, these 16 ways. And I don't get into that. I think the brokers do a good job. And I think there's a lot of seminars on that. I hit 3 points. I hit you have to plan. I talk about trust in our market right now because with COVID virus, creating trust with a consumer is very important because everybody's a little bit on edge right now. And so trust already for agents is difficult because, as you know, real estate agents, lawyers, and used car salesmen are typically the 3 most untrusted professions. Unfortunately, I have 2 of those licenses. So we talk about that. And then the last part I like to talk about is the ask. And I think a lot of agents miss that too. As I say as a joke, I never got a date I didn't ask for. Dates just didn't happen. You had to ask for the girl out. And I think a lot of people go to these seminars and learn how to do presentations, but they fail at the ask. How do you ask the client, I want you to sign up with me, and get them to sign up? And so we kind of do it at that level. And now if agents want to, and I've mentioned this in my webinar, after they watch the webinar, if they want to email me, I'm happy to do a Zoom video for 15, 30 minutes with them and get them on the right track to getting that planning done with them.
So I don't want to steal your thunder, but would you be willing to say or speak on how they should be asking for business here?
Yeah, a little bit of asking for business is just the fact of doing it. People feel like they're not entitled to ask. They feel they shouldn't be asking. They don't want to put somebody on the spot. And I used the analogy or the example. A lot of y'all may know Anna Page Durant in our market. She's been a leader in our market for many years. And Anna Page would call me a lot and ask me questions. And finally, one day I just asked her to go to lunch. And we were at lunch and I said, well, Anna Page, you've called me a lot over the years asking me questions and my advice, but you haven't sent me closings. Will you start sending me closings? And she looked up at me and said, you've never asked. And I said, seriously? She goes, you've never asked. I send business to people who ask me. If you would have asked me, I would have sent it to you earlier. So I said, well, I'm asking you. And guess what? That afternoon, I had a closing in my inbox. So a lot of it's just realizing that life is getting shot down. If we're not willing to fail at what we do, we cannot succeed at what we do. If you're learning how to water ski or if you're learning how to snow ski, if you never fall down at doing it, then you're really not trying to get any better. You're just trying to maintain status quo. And so a lot of it's just understanding that life is living and getting shot down twice a week is part of it. It's no big deal. Just ask.
I'm sure there's a joke in there about you not getting dates that you ask for, but we'll leave that for a private conversation.
Yeah.
But it's funny that you mentioned that too, because with my loan officers in our group and coaching platforms across the land, the campaign that we're using, we call it Just Ask. Yeah. And to your point about feeling undeserving, I get a lot of pushback from realtors and loan officers when I talk to them about asking for referrals about, oh, I want to wait till the closing is done to ask for the referral. I don't deserve it until I've done a good job. Well, I just flat out disagree. And we call it Just Ask. I mean, so we are currently actively pushing loan officers and realtors alike to be calling current clients, even people that they just signed a buyer's agreement for or just signed a listing agent up with, like calling those people and asking, hey, you know, you're selling your house or you're buying a house, you're inevitably going to come across conversations where other people are doing that. Would you mind, if you think I'm doing a good job, would you mind referring me their contact information? It makes no sense not to do it, because the absolute worst case scenario is they just say, I don't know anybody.
Right. And whether you're asking for a referral or a review, remember, reviews are just as important as referrals right now. We have 356, I think it is, 5-star reviews, because we ask clients to review us. And I get tons of business because people will go on the internet searching for a lawyer, whether it's a FSBO or whether it's something like they just need a deed done to transfer it out of an estate or whatever. And I always ask them, how did you find us? Well, you're the only lawyer with any 5-star reviews. You got 350 something, and the next guy's got 3. And so when I went to BombBomb, you mentioned BombBomb earlier, we were talking there at one of the seminars they did in Denver. And that's one of the things they were talking about is, when is the client the happiest? Is when you should be asking for your reviews and your referrals. Well, when is a client happiest in real estate? It's not when the closing's done. I mean, quite frankly, after I bought my first house, I was nervous as a wreck. I mean, I just signed a mortgage and a note, and I was nervous of that. And I got to move, and I'm tired. The happiest I was the day it went under contract. And if you think about it, it's kind of weird but that is one of the happiest days of the person's life. When they sign that contract and you call them back and say, guess what? The contract's accepted. They're excited now. And so that should be, hey, by the way, since that was so easy to get you under contract, you got a friend, you got a client, you got a colleague, let me help them. How about give me a review? That's when they're happiest.
Yeah,
so all along the way.
Makes perfect sense to me. And I wish more agents would do that. I feel like goals would be easier to attain if they did. And I want to pivot with you in a minute, because we're going to talk a little bit more about some tactical things with BombBomb, because I think it's a very inexpensive way for realtors to get in front of clients, their database, potential referral partner, anybody. And we'll talk about that. But real quickly, let's recap. So in this webinar that you're doing, Seminar for Agents, you're going to be talking about planning, both long-term goals and short-term goals.
Yep.
What else was there?
We're going to talk about developing trust with your client, the ways to do that, as well as the ask, how to do the ask, making sure that you are asking.
Being able to pivot given certain situations. Okay.
Being able to pivot when the market changes. Yep. All
right. So I do BombBomb. Admittedly, I'm not very good at it. I know how to click a button and hit record, but I'm sure there's tools and bells and whistles that I'm just
all kind of cool stuff
unaware of that might actually help me get more exposure to these videos that I'm doing.
Yep.
So if you don't mind, tell me a little bit about how you use BombBomb.
So I started BombBomb a little over a year ago, and I epically failed. I just did. I started it. First month, I sent out maybe 15 videos. Second month, I got down to 10. Then I got down to 5. Then I got to 1. And then I didn't send a video out for 2 months. And I called Shane, who's my customer rep, and I said, yeah, I think I'm going to cancel. And he said, before you do, come out here to Rehumanize in Denver. And just, if you don't like it, then we'll cancel. Well, I got out there, watched that, and saw how people like Jason Ferris, who's probably one of the top agents in California. He's out in Fresno. I want to say it's Jimmy Choo, but that's not right. It's a big agent in Beverly Hills who was out there. His average listing price is like $40 million. Saw these guys that were smaller, like a mortgage broker in Tampa, Florida was using it, and they were just killing it. And I came home with 6 pages of notes, single space, handwritten 6 pages of notes. And I slowly started implementing my plan. And in less than a year, I have over almost 200,000 unique opens. That means that when I send a video, the person I sent it to opened it. That counts as 1. But if they send it to another 50 people and all 50 people open it, it doesn't count to that. So I'm probably closer to 500,000 opens now in less than a year. And so it's been very successful for me. I've been known now kind of in the marketplace as the video lawyer. I have my own legal tip blog that's got 4,200 people, I think, subscribe to it. Every day, people I don't even know from, I've got people from Boston and Chicago, and attorneys are subscribing to this thing all over the Southeast and East. And I don't even know how they find out, but so anyway, it's been a marketing blessing for us. I think BombBomb is a great tool. It's $39 a month, I think it is. It's very inexpensive. And I think the COVID virus, more than anything, and you mentioned it earlier, Brian, is everybody's going to Zoom. Everybody wants to see you, and you can't be in front of them as much as you want to be. So how impersonal is an email versus how personable can a BombBomb video be, where I say the same thing I would say in the email in the video. The person gets to see me, they get to see my emotion, they get to feel like they know me. And I know it works because before COVID, when we'd walk into closings, people go, "Oh, I know you." Well, you don't know me. You saw me in a video. They're like, "Oh, you're the guy in the video." And you think about it, it's like, I feel like one of my best friends in the entire world is The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. He don't know me. I've never laid eyes on him outside of the videos I've watched of him, but because you see him in movies and you watch him on Instagram and you see him so much, you feel like now he's part of your life. And there's actually a study about that. And so BombBomb makes you part of that consumer's life because they see you, they relate with you. And it's just a very easy thing to do. Agents, and I'll probably do a webinar on this because I think this is an interesting topic. Agents send out, and this will be a little preview of it. I get those flyers. Do you get those flyers, Brian, in the mail all the time? Okay. It's funny though. One of your competitors one time, a lender sent me one that football season had a football on the back of it with my name on it. I got 7 of them from that same company from each one of their mortgage originators. That's made me feel real special that all 7 of them sent me the exact same football with Gary's name written on the back of it in a flyer. So I just chunked them in the garbage. But imagine had somebody done a video to me and say, "Hey, Gary, hope you're doing well. Just wanted to let you know that interest rates are dropping," or whatever. I probably would have watched this video and go, "Yeah, that's pretty cool." Even if it's a canned video, because in BombBomb, it doesn't all have to be one-on-one. It can be canned. You can say, "Hey, I just wanted you to know that interest rates are dropping," and they can see that. So there's a lot of ways that agents could implement it, whether it's on the cold call, how to respond to a cold call, instead of using an email, use a BombBomb, how it is to follow up with somebody that hasn't signed up with you. Somebody signs up with you and you send the documents to them they signed with a video thanking them. On the back end, there can be videos on how to, you've done a closing for me. Instead of sending me that postcard going, "Hope you enjoy your house," and you send it to me a week, 3 months, and 6 months, and a year, and then I never hear from you again. Wouldn't it be better if you sent me a video 6 months afterwards saying, "Hey, I hope you're still enjoying your house. Enjoyed meeting you and your wife. Is there anything that we can do? Let me know. I'm here to provide you painter names, yard cutting names, anybody you need. I'm here to help you. And by the way, if you have a friend, how about give him my name? I'm happy to help him." Much better call to action and much more personable. And I think the clients are going to respond to it. So maybe you and I, Brian, should throw together a little seminar and do that one day. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
I would love to, because the benefits are astronomical if you ever actually take the time. And it's funny because the pushback I get is, "Well, I don't know how to do video. I don't look good on camera. I don't like the way I sound." All that stuff that doesn't matter. Because I'll tell you what, I've been doing more videos in the last 6 months than I ever have in my career. And I don't like the way I look or sound either. But the best piece of advice I ever got was a guy telling me, he's like, "Brian, I got bad news, man. That's the way you look and sound. So you don't sound any different or look any different on camera than you do in person." And so it just is what it is. Once you get over that hump, and it's really the thing I like best about BombBomb is that once you get it set up, it takes 15 seconds to record a video.
Right.
And then you email it and then it's done. And you could do 30 of them in 30 minutes.
Yep.
And hit up 30 of your past clients or 30 of your sphere of influence. Hell, I was on a class the other day where a loan officer who's killing it in DC or somewhere, but he goes through his Facebook friends list. And there's a way you can export your friend list as an Excel spreadsheet. It has name, phone number, and email address for the majority of your friends. Unbelievable. So he'll just block off 30, do a quick Zoom session or a BombBomb session, do quick videos. "Hey, Gary, hey, rates are dropped." Or, "Hey, Gary, market's hot right now. I don't know if you've been thinking about buying or selling," but whatever the pitch is. Because what ends up happening is that the content becomes much less important than the action of doing it. And as you do more and more of it, the content will come. You'll get feedback and you'll know, you'll find out what people want to hear. And so it's just little tips like that can take an agent from doing 5 houses a month to 50 houses a month in 2 years like that. It's just really easy stuff once you get over yourself and implement a plan, right?
Right. And some of the first videos I did, they're terrible. It's like, "My name is Gary and today's legal tip is on," and it seems so rehearsed. Now it's just like this. I look at it as if I'm talking to you sitting right in front of me, and you've called me and said, "Hey, what happens on the 5-day rule for financing?" And I would just say, "Well, this is what it is." And so I stumble, I say, I say, my phone's ringing, and y'all have heard twice in this meeting already, but that's who we are. That's natural. You want it to
How much prep time did we do for this video?
What's that?
How much prep time did you and I have before this interview?
I had 0 before you and I got on, and when we got on, we talked for about 2 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, we're not planning. I know you're a top producer and I wanted to get your thoughts. And so it's like for guys that think that this is, or guys or girls or whoever, realtors who think doing these types of things is hard or doing a bomb video is difficult, they're just wrong. And it's one of those things where if we can get more of our referral partners or potential referral partners doing stuff like this, everybody in the industry is going to benefit from it.
Oh, absolutely. And it's just a great way to stay in front of people. And I often joke, I don't even care if you watch my videos. I mean, I really like for you to, because in my videos, I provide legal tips and marketing tips. So if you're in the industry, it certainly helps you. But once you open my email, it's got my marketing information all around it. Blair Cato, Pickren, Castellan's written all over it. There's my face. And so I'm staying top of mind. So if you're working with somebody, for instance, one of the examples is you've talked with somebody who's not really ready to sell their house, but they're thinking about it. Well, if you did a drip campaign based on video instead of email, they're going to constantly see your face. So 6 months from now, when they go, okay, I'm ready, they're not going, what was that real estate agent's name that sent me an email? They'll never find it because there's 50 other real estate agents who also sent them email. But if you've been in front of them with 4 videos, they're going to say, oh, call that fast talking Gary guy. I liked him. And next thing you know, you're getting his business or her business.
Yeah, I mean, assuming you're not a complete jerk and you have some level of sales skills, right?
Which we all have.
I try to keep these relatively short, about 30 minutes or so, so I don't want to go too long, but do you have any final thoughts you'd like to offer any of the realtors that may be watching?
Well, I just think that the planning is the key right now, and is that this is going to end. This COVID virus is going to be over. You start looking at the numbers looking better and better. The vaccines are looking positive. I get it. Everybody was kind of doom and gloom for a month or two. I was too. I'm not going to lie. We were like, oh my gosh, we're going to be in trouble. But we can already see that it's not happening like they thought. We are seeing positive things in our market. The market's starting to heat up. And when you look at some of the smartest people like Warren Buffett and people like that, they're saying you can't keep America down, whether it was World War II or the 9/11 or whatever it is. We're going to come back, and we'll come back with a roar. And the agents who are prepared and those agents who are ready are the agents who are going to win this thing. And I'll end on this. I've said it many times. Go back and look at the MLS 10 years ago and see who your top agents were and see where they are today. And then look at the top agents who are today and realize where they were 10 years ago. Most of them weren't even in real estate. So you've got to be ready to prepare, look at where the market's going. Video, in my opinion, and Brian's opinion, is where it's going. So if you're not going to be on the video and you're not going to do these types of things, 10 years from now, I hope I can find your name on MLS. I mean, I just be honest. I think if you're not going to do this, you're not going to do Instagram, social media, then, it's just not going to work. You've got to branch out and push yourself where you're uncomfortable.
And we can help you. I mean, I know you're willing to help. I'm absolutely willing to help anybody that wants, one-on-one or any kind of group session. I'm happy to, anything that I know, which isn't a whole lot, I'm happy to impart because I think it's the way to go.
Well, the smart thing I've done is I've surrounded myself with young people because I'm 50 years old and using Instagram, I'm like, what is this stuff? So Ashton Stevens she's been our intern, and now she's going to be our marketing director over in Lexington. Her specialty is social media. She's the one who got me up on Instagram. I think she has like 10,000 followers on Instagram. So she's going to be available to meet with any real estate agent or lender who wants to meet with us, and she can show them how to get the Instagram page going if you don't have one. But if you don't have one, or you do have one, she can show you the filters, the microphone, the better way of doing the video and all the little tricks. So, your office probably has somebody like that. We got people like that, so we're here to help everybody.
Just to be clear, I don't have any filters going on here. I mean,
this is unfortunately how I look like every day.
This is as good as it gets.
Tired and worn out and stressed.
Gary, man, thank you very much. Guys, if you want to reach out to Gary, I'm going to have his contact information here down below, but feel free to reach out to him. He's awesome. We love working with him. So thank you guys very much for your time. And Gary, man, I really appreciate your time today.
Appreciate it. Enjoyed it.